Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you my Pick a Stick Challenge page for the month of July 2018. The Pick a Stick Challenge is brought to you by myself and Peg Robinson in a Facebook group, and we have randomly drawn one-word prompts. And the only rule is that you do steps 1 through 6 in order, and you don't skip any of those. You can add other steps in anytime you want. There's a couple wild cards. There's also a color suggestion, but you don't have to take it. Step 1 was to use tissue, and I decided to use some crumpled up tissue paper to make texture on my background. And I'm also starting out with the colors. The colors for the month are green, gold, and amber. All these prompts are randomly drawn on sticks, so you get what you get. So nobody picked these colors specifically, but that's what came out on the stick pick, which was something I had to do this month. So I'm starting out with the colors in my background and then taking this crumpled up tissue paper and patting it into the paint to get kind of a texture, and then eventually I decide that I want to just use the crumpled up tissue paper as a kind of a stamp or texture maker, using a little bit of titanium white just to kind of lighten up the center section of the background. And then I also use some of the green gold to darken up the edges a little bit. It doesn't make that much difference, but this is how I created the first layer of the background. Gave that a really good dry, and moving on to the second step, which was dash. Now on our sticks we have one category that's called shape, and shape is what came up with dash this time. So dash would be a rectangular line of marks, basically. So the shape, as far as the shape, I mean, dash can mean something else to you. You could be dashing here and dashing there, or dashing through the snow or whatever, but I decided to use the actual shape of dashes, and I made a horizon line across my page using a black Posca pen to make this dashed line across my page. So that was step 2. Step 3 is draw. Now, if you can't draw or you don't think you can draw, you guys can always trace something or use a digital drawing that someone else made, something like that. Don't freak out because it says to draw. Or you could just draw lines or draw circles or use a stencil to draw through to make leaf shapes or something. It's doesn't have to be freehand drawing. But of course, I'm going to freehand draw because I like to do that. So lately, I've really been into cooking stir fry. And also, we've been going to a restaurant called Panda Express. We've been there once, and we went to a Chinese buffet once, and it's just been a thing. I've really just been enjoying Asian cooking. So I decided to make my page about that. Part of that was that the green in the background kind of reminds me of celery, which I've also been eating a lot lately. I've been buying it, chopping it up, and then eating it with peanut butter. And I don't know, I'm just on some type of a weird veggie kick. So I decided to draw a wok, which is what you cook stir fry in. On the Panda Express cups that you get when you go to eat there, they give you, the paper or styrofoam cup to put your drink in, and it had this drawing of this wok that was kind of, you can of course stir fry by moving the food around with a spatula or a bamboo thing or whatever, or you can sometimes see them like kind of tossing up the wok, just kind of like, if they're good at it, they can, I'm not good at it, I use a spatula, but you could like theoretically toss the food up to stir it around. And that's the drawing on the cup, and I thought that something like that would be cute on my page. So I made the wok at an angle as if the chef was kind of tossing it up, and then the food that I'm going to make is going to kind of be like flying out the top, and then it's, of course, eventually it'll drop back down because of gravity. But I went ahead and painted my wok using some Decoart fluid media paint. That's the brand and type of paint that I used for the whole project today. Just because it was out, it was on the desk, and the green gold is one of their colors. That's a standard color, like a standard artist color, but it's just kind of, I know that I have a specific color named that. And so, let's see. I went around the edges. I sponged the edges a little bit with some black archival ink because I just didn't feel like the edges were dark enough. I do have this page prepped with masking tape all the way around. So I know that there's going to be a white border, and I just wanted something very specific on the edges where that tape will be pulled off. So that's why I did that. The next step 4, was washi, which refers to a rice paper tape that is something that came, I believe, from Japan probably originally. You can buy it anywhere in the United States now, but I think the original tape was from Japan, which also was another thing that lent to the idea of my page being kind of this Asian theme. So I got out some different colors that I thought would coordinate out of my bin of washi tape, and I'd thrown in a third color in my color way here, which is red, which I think goes well with these two other colors. And so I got some black, some olive color, some yellowy ambery color, some red tapes. Some of them have patterns, some of them are just a narrow solid tape that is a true washi tape. It's made out of rice paper, and I ordered it off Amazon, and it took like 3 or 4 weeks to come. But the other ones, I don't know, I probably bought them here and there. Somebody might have sent me one of them at some point. I don't know. I have a whole big bin, and it just keeps getting bigger, of washi tape because it's just so fun. And then, you buy it and you have to have it, and then you just hoard it because it's cute and you don't want to use it. And so I think all of us probably have at least one roll somewhere in our hoarding because just, I don't know. There's just something about it. You just want to collect it. It's fun. So the next step after 4 was 5 was abstract. And so I figured I'd kind of make an abstract pattern on my background using the washi tape. So I'm kind of combining 4 and 5 a little bit. Just adding lines, hash marks, type of shapes, crossing and weaving the washi tapes over each other in a way that I like. This isn't like, oh, there's a right or wrong way to do it. I am using a little bit of the Liquitex matte gel medium along with my tape because in my experience this tape doesn't stick very well and it'll probably come up at some point, and so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of matte medium glue to it to keep it stuck down on my page, sealing it and sticking it. So there's some elements of composition here, like trying to make colorful triangles. So like in the case of that red wider tape, there's 3 pieces in a triangle shape, and in the red narrow tape there's 3 pieces, in particular the ones that are strong, like the black one has 3 pieces, and that kind of draws your eye in a triangle pattern so that your eye doesn't fall off the edge of the page. It goes from one section to another and I wasn't thinking real hard about that. It's just kind of a thing that happens with your eyeball. You kind of notice it. I don't know. That's part of how it feels good to you or how it looks good to you. And so, yeah, I don't know. I can't really explain it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm tired and I'm getting ready for my trip, and I'm just probably not making a lot of sense. This little piece is my fortune from Panda Express that I had in my pocket of my shorts when I went to wash them. I found it and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of like that one. It says nurture your dreams. And I wanted to add that to my page. Goes with the whole theme. So then I feel that the paint on my walk is dry now, so I'm going around the edges and making illustration lines using my black Posca pen to make it look more like an illustration and less like a painting. So Posca pens are an acrylic paint pen, so they're right over the top of other acrylic pretty easily. So that's the reason that I'm using them this time. I also bring in a silver colored Posca pen to color the little, the pin and the little wooden connection, the wood to metal connection on the handle. So the next step was Grate, and my original idea was to like take some type of a grating device and grate some sort of medium like a crayon or something onto the page and then get it wet, or I don't know. Anyway, none of that sounded appealing. So I decided to just draw a grate shape, like basically a grid. And sometimes when you're making an illustration, you use hash marks to indicate an area that's darker or lighter on your illustration. So I just did that for Grate. I just drew kind of the hashy marks in a grate shape, like the type of a grate that would be on something, you know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I moved on to making my food, and I started out, I got out my color boxes of different types of papers, and I started drawing some shrimp, cooked shrimp to start with, and then I'm just kind of collaging a little bit of extra colored paper onto my shrimp because I felt they needed a little bit more, I don't know, color dimension, like to make them look like they're cooked in different areas. That salmon piece of colored paper there is from some packaging, and it's shiny and very plain, and so I just thought I needed to add a little bit of paper painting color collage style stuff on there. Not going too hard with it, just a little bit. And then the rest of the food I just cut out of paper. I didn't do this step where I had added extra papers to it. It's just the shrimps are the biggest thing that's on there. So I cut them all out and started to lay them out. Then I had this piece of purple that had some circles gel printed on it, and I used those circle shapes to kind of cut some red onions. They really should be called purple onions, but they're called red onions. That's something that I like in my stir fry. And then I made some little peas, because peas and carrots, I put that in my fried rice when I cook it. There's the carrots, little carrot coins. What else did I make? I made some sprouts. There should be more sprouts, but I got tired of cutting sprouts in about 3 seconds. So I'm using kind of that light olive colored paper to make some sprouts. And I used some brown paper with a little bit of goldish brownish paint on it to make some mushrooms, because I like mushrooms. Yum yum. And then I used kind of an off-white colored paper paint on some paper to make some little cubes of tofu. I could have made a lot more food, but I didn't want to make this, take forever. I could really gone crazy with it, but I tried to edit what I was doing to make enough of what you would see that you know what's going on without like going clear over the crazy overboard. So then I attach all my little food collage with Liquitex gel matte medium. kind of painting it onto the paper and then sticking the little pieces into it. These are all very lightweight papers. They may all be deli paper or tissue paper. All these little pieces are not thick or heavy paper, but doing it this way makes it easy to stick them down, and I can kind of pick them up with my brush, place them, stick them down until I have my whole little meal. Of course, this proportion is way off because look at how big the shrimp is in comparison to the wok. It's a tiny wok. It's a very tiny wok. It's probably like, you know, a 1 quart. I don't even know if they make them that small. But it conveys what I'm trying to go for here. This is some stir fry. Someone's making some stir fry. They're flipping up the pan so that the food flips over and slides back in. And it's fun. It's fun and colorful. So then once I had all my food on, I made sure it was all stuck down, gave it a little bit of a dry, and then I decided what I really needed there to stir my wok was some, oh, I didn't get to that part yet. First, I did some illustration lines, and these are not, I am not being fussy about this. These are actually pretty messy, and when you see the close-ups, you'll see that they're very casual marks. I'm not drawing around everything. I'm going quickly and just getting some lines in there to kind of make my food match everything else, because everything else has lines. My food should also have lines. So just know that it's not like I'm not taking a whole lot of time doing this. I'm going pretty fast as I'm going through it. Just making some marks. Then I decide that what my composition needs is something in that center section, because there's a hole that needs to be filled. So I decide to make some chopsticks out of a piece of painty paper. Sometimes when you're stir frying, I've seen people use chopsticks to stir it too. And you could also just eat it right out of the pan using your chopsticks. So I thought that that was appropriate. Put those on with matte medium. I hope you're enjoying this video, and if you are, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. You know, subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications if you'd like to know when there's a nice, fresh, stir-fried video for you to see. And share this if you know someone who really likes Chinese food. So I went ahead, put those on, put some lines around those, and then I'm drawing on some words because I thought it needed more words. It needs something in those sections to balance everything out. So whenever I make stir fry at home, my boys always joke that it's walk and roll. We're a rock and roll household, and walk and roll. It's like, oh, it's walk and roll night. So I thought that was a funny thing to put on there. So I tried to draw kind of a Asian takeout looking sort of a font without actually looking at one, but just the idea of it. But I thought that really finished up the page. And then the only other thing I did was to make a border with the black line all around. And then I think some touch up. I think I added a little bit of white Posca steam coming off the pan and some white Posca lines in my little onions. Oh yeah, of course. Shadows. This is a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Brush Pen in sepia color, and I'm just making shadows and blending them with my finger because I have a few seconds which I can blend this in the ink. So yeah, I think that that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this page. I think it's fun. And of course, if you want to join the challenge, just go over to the link below the video and ask to join, and don't forget to answer the questions. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.